Hey guys, Nuan here with Movie Slinger Reviews, and today we're gonna talk about Glass. This movie is written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and it is the sequel to Unbreakable, his superhero-themed and criminally underappreciated movie starring Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. It's also the sequel to Split, which was a psychological thriller starring James Mcavoy. So naturally, all these characters are gonna meet in Glass, and fans have been eagerly waiting many years to watch this showdown, especially the Unbreakable fans. The story begins a few weeks after the ending of Split. The character Kevin, who suffers from a serious case of multiple personality disorder, is still at large. His bad personalities are still abducting girls to be sacrificed to the beast. David Dunn, who moonlights as a superhero called the Overseer, is working with his son Joseph to track down Kevin. Both Kevin and David are taken into custody by Dr. Ellie Staple. She takes them to this mental hospital, the very same mental hospital that houses the criminal mastermind Elijah Price, also known as Mr. Glass. So Dr. Staple believes that Elijah, David and Kevin are suffering from delusions of grandeur. They believe they're superheroes, but they're really not. And she's trying to convince them that they're normal. And if she can't convince them in 3 days, they will be put into an institution where they can never leave. Of course, Elijah has other plans, and the exciting part is watching how everything unfolds now that we have all these characters in one location. Just like he did in Unbreakable, Shyamalan explores more of the superhero themes in a very realistic and grounded way. Unbreakable was very ahead of its time for doing that. Of course, I've heard some people criticize Glass, saying that it's outdated now simply because we have the MCU and the DC films. I have to admit that I was a little apprehensive myself, but after watching Glass, I realized that it's not outdated. In fact, it's actually very relevant, and that's because this movie is not a repeat of Unbreakable. Unbreakable was a great setup. It set up the characters and introduced the concept of realistic superheroes. And it ended teasing us with the possibilities of a world where superheroes could be real. Glass is simultaneously the payoff of that promise while also discreetly subverting our expectations by introducing doubt into the equation. Doubt for us, the audience, but also importantly for the main characters. Elijah, David and Kevin are doing what they're doing because they believe they are more than human. What kept me engaged was watching how all these characters react to Dr. Staple trying to convince them otherwise. And the payoff part, especially for us geeks, comes from all the superhero stuff we like to see. Stuff like watching the villains team up, the concept of the origin story, which was really cool and I don't want to spoil anything, and of course the big showdown at the end. But on top of that, Shyamalan is not afraid to question us, the geeks and fans, whether there's a point to all of this. Is there anything meaningful in reading comics and buying toys of our favorite superheroes? Is it just great marketing to sell merchandise? And of course, the movie doesn't answer these questions, and Shyamalan isn't judging anyone, but it is an interesting thought. Let's talk about the characters. James Mcavoy, oh my god, what a performance. If you thought he was great in Split, he goes above and beyond that in Glass. We get to see the usual personalities like Patricia and Hedwig, which are now some of my favorite movie characters ever. Hedwig listens to Drake now. I'm a little disappointed that he stopped listening to Kanye and started on Drake, but he is a kid and that's the shit kids listen to these days. So whatever. There are a few sequences where he switches personalities really fast. These scenes were really impressive, and I've never seen another actor just switch like that. Sure, we've seen actors go from one personality to a second one, but Mcavoy is going through like 5 to 6 like it's nothing. The editing was also on point. It's always very clear to the audience when a switch happens. Both Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson do a decent job, but of course they are overshadowed by McAvoy's horde. Elijah geeks out whenever something happens that reminds him of a comic book moment. It's so amusingly meta and self-aware like that, which I really enjoyed. Spencer Treat Clark is back as David's son Joseph. He's all grown up now. There's a few scenes where they show him working with David to track down criminals. He's definitely the man in the chair now. And there's also a few emotional moments when Joseph has to entertain the notion that maybe his father is not a superhero. Anya Taylor-Joy is back as Casey, who was abducted by the Horde in Split. She's trying to help Kevin back into the light and take control. The scenes where she's interacting with the different personalities like Hedwig is very entertaining. The scenes with Kevin are very emotional and she does a great job. Sarah Paulson plays Dr. Staple. Her performance is fine, but what really impressed me was her character and what she represents. Doubt, which is really what ultimately breaks a superhero and makes them lose all hope. And this character really did a good job of testing the limits of their beliefs. This is a low-budget movie, so don't expect epic set pieces, but the cinematography is so good and Shyamalan has such a great sense of framing a scene that it feels epic anyway. The way he would frame a character in a doorway, the way a character outline appears as a silhouette, the way somebody would pose before a fight is shown off in such a cool way, it gives me goosebumps every time I think of it. He knows how to show off superheroes, and it's this style that makes the action feel bigger than it really is. It's low budget and on a small scale, but it feels important. Every punch has impact and weight behind it. The music by Wes Dylan Thornton is great. It builds on earlier themes from Unbreakable. You get these spine-tingly, creepy sounds whenever the beast is on screen. And then you get this beautiful, uplifting score during the superhero moments, like when David puts on his raincoat. The music really complemented the superhero themes. Conclusion. The cast is good with James Mcavoy stealing all the thunder. It's beautifully shot and edited with a great score. We get to see these characters interact. We see Mr. Glass plotting and scheming. We see David fight the beast. All those superhero encounters and confrontations we had in mind, Shyamalan delivers all of that. Now, I would have been entertained if that's all this movie was, but I'm happy to say it's much more than that. So my recommendation is watch Unbreakable and Split if you haven't already. If you like those movies, go watch Glass in theaters right now. If you don't like those movies, well, then Glass won't really mean anything to you. Sure, it's not as groundbreaking or ahead of its time like Unbreakable was, and it's not a mind-blowing psychological thriller with a surprise connection to another movie like Split was. Glass is simply a great conclusion to the story of these characters, and that's good enough for me. This is a movie about comic books and their relevance in our culture. It's part of our history now and it's shaping our lives. It's a love letter for comic book fans and it's signed M. Night Shyamalan. So there you go. Have you watched Glass yet? And what did you think about it? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe. Movie Slinger out.